therapist Kristen Jacobson.
Hey everyone, I'm Kristen, the anxiety therapist, and today I want to talk about what to do if you have a fear of flying, or aviophobia, as we call it. So I want to set the stage for a minute. So let's say you're on the airplane, you're watching your favorite Netflix series, and all of a sudden you hit a huge wave of turbulence, and you just go into complete panic mode, right? You think the plane's going down, this is it, this is the end, and you are just out of your mind. Anxiety surging through your body, your heart's pounding, you're sweating, you are just in that total fight or flight state. So today I want to talk about some techniques so that you can sort of prevent yourself from getting into that state, because that's no fun for anybody, right? And the fear of flying is such a common experience, and some people experience it in very mild terms. They can still get on an airplane and they just have a little bit of anxiety when they're in that situation. Some people have such an extreme fear of flying that they can't even get on an airplane. I remember one of my professors in graduate school, he had to take a train everywhere across country because he couldn't even step foot on an airplane. He couldn't travel internationally because he just refused to get on an airplane. So there's definitely a spectrum within which people fall. But I want to talk about people who are at least willing to fly, willing to step foot on an airplane, and some techniques that you can use in order to make the experience a lot less stressful. So even when we understand that it's one of the safest ways to travel, it can still create significant stress for a lot of people. So that can be the nervous anticipation days or even weeks before a trip to a full-blown panic attack during turbulence. So thankfully, we have some really effective science-backed techniques to make the experience easier. So this video will explore why the fear of flying happens and break down some tools that can help you manage it, allowing you to fly with a lot more peace. So why do we even fear flying in the first place? It really stems from several common concerns, often blending the physical discomfort we feel with some psychological triggers. So many people feel anxious because of the lack of control, right? Flying is one of the few times in life we put our safety completely in someone else's hands. Other people feel claustrophobic due to the confined space, or worry about something going wrong despite the extremely low risk. Fear responses are natural because they're really hardwired in our brains to protect us from threats, right? When the brain perceives a threat, it triggers our fight or flight response, and stress hormones like adrenaline, cortisol, they flood our system, causing symptoms like that racing heart, shallow breathing, and muscle tension. And these physical symptoms or responses, while they're meant to help in actual danger, only increase anxiety during a flight, where it's perceived danger. It's not actual danger, but our body doesn't know the difference. So let's get into some practical techniques to manage this anxiety effectively, starting with some grounding exercises and then working through methods you can use kind of at every stage in your flying journey. So grounding techniques are great because they're designed to keep you focused on the present. And so it helps to shift your attention away from your anxious thoughts, which are irrational, and onto immediate physical sensations. So one of the most widely used grounding techniques, one that I share with a lot of my clients and that they find really helpful, is the 5-4-3-2-1 method. And this involves noticing specific things around you to help bring your attention back to the present. You might have heard me mention this method in other videos. I like to repeat it because it's just so effective, and it can be used in just a wide variety in situations, not just flying, but it can be applied pretty much anytime you need to bring yourself back to the present. So here's how it works. You want to name 5 things that you can see around you. So an airplane, this could be the seat in front of you, the tray table, the overhead light, etc. Anything that you can see. Then you want to find 4 things around you that you can touch. So your seat belt, the fabric of your seat, the cool metal of the armrest, things like that. Then 3 sounds that you can hear. So it could be the hum of the engine, the voices of the nearby passengers, maybe the flight attendant going over the safety features before you take off. Then 2 scents around you, even if they're faint. So this could be the airplane air, it has that very distinct smell. Maybe hand sanitizer, your own perfume or cologne, or you could even bring aromatherapy or essential oil to smell, like a stress relieving oil, something like that. And then 1 thing you can taste. So maybe a snack or a drink you have with you, or maybe you're chewing a piece of gum, something like that. So this exercise really helps to create a clear here and now focus and shifts your mind away from the fears about what might happen in the future. And grounding techniques are simple to remember and can be repeated anytime you feel your anxiety really kind of creeping up. Number 2 is deep breathing to calm your nervous system. So we kind of have to tackle the fear of flying from the top down, which means the cognitive thinking piece, but also from the bottom up, which means addressing the physical piece, the nervous system, our body. So one of the best ways to manage anxiety in any setting, including in flight, is through deep breathing. So when we're anxious, we tend to breathe in very shallow, rapid breaths, which can actually increase symptoms of panic, like lightheadedness and chest tightness, things like that. So deep breathing really counters the effects by slowing your heart rate and calming the body. So you want to kind of try to get your breathing as deep down into your belly as you can. And a helpful exercise is box breathing. And this can be done really discreetly in your seat. It has been shown to activate what's called the parasympathetic nervous system. This is the part of your nervous system that's responsible for relaxation. And here's how it works. So you want to inhale through your nose for a count of 4. Hold for 4. Exhale slowly through your mouth for 4. Hold your breath again for 4. And then you just do that a few times. And this rhythmic breathing technique can really help you feel more in control of your body, and then by extension, more in control of your emotions. So repeating this cycle a few times can really help reduce feelings of panic and make it easier to manage that in-flight anxiety. Another tool is called coping ahead. So if you feel anxious long before you even get to the airport, coping ahead can be a really helpful tool to prepare mentally for what's to come. So this tool is taken from dialectical behavior therapy, or DBT, and it involves mentally rehearsing how you'll handle situations that might trigger anxiety. So this helps reduce that anticipatory anxiety and builds confidence in your ability to manage the fear. So here's sort of a quick step-by-step guide on how to apply this strategy. First, you want to describe the situation. So identify the specific part of the experience or the flight that triggers the most anxiety for you. So this could be the turbulence, the takeoff, whatever. Then you want to write down the exact scenario, as this really helps narrow the focus and prevents these sort of vague fears from spiraling, right? So we want to get very specific and concrete. So you want to check the facts. Remind yourself of flying safety record, which consistently shows that it's one of the safest forms of travel. Then you want to decide on which coping skills you're going to use if you do start to feel anxious. So, for example, if turbulence is a major concern, maybe you want to plan to use that box breathing or the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 method to help you stay grounded and calm. So having a clear plan gives you the mental tools to rely on in the moment, which is often difficult to recall when that fear takes over. So when our emotional brain kind of takes control, we have a really hard time accessing our logical brain, which is where we can sort of remember those helpful coping techniques. So just having those planned out ahead of time, then we just have them readily available when our emotional brain kind of takes over and is on the fritz. Step 3 is imagine the situation vividly. So you want to mentally place yourself in that exact situation you described, feeling the plane taking off, the hum of the engines, the slight bump in turbulence. Imagine it as if you're there, it's happening now in the present tense. And this visualization helps make the situation familiar, reducing its power to surprise or overwhelm you. So you're sort of like desensitizing yourself to it in a way. And then you want to walk through each coping action in your mind. So picture yourself reaching for your water bottle, focusing on your breathing, practicing the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique. This rehearsal actually helps to ingrain the response, which in turn builds confidence in your ability to handle the situation calmly. Number 4 is to reframe anxious thoughts with cognitive behavioral techniques. So these techniques are really helpful for challenging what if thoughts. And the goal is to take specific fearful thoughts like what if the plane crashes and replace them with fact-based thoughts. So one effective way to do this is to write down your anxious thoughts and then challenge them directly. So for example, if I have the fearful thought, what if the plane crashes? My counter thinking might be, statistically, flying is the safest way to travel. Pilots are highly trained and planes are built to withstand turbulence. So reframing these fears with logic can help counteract the brain's tendency to catastrophize. And a lot of people find that simply looking at these facts reduces the emotional charge of the fearful thoughts, and then it makes them easier to manage. Number 5 is using technology for distraction. So, sometimes the best way to handle fear is just simply to distract your mind with something else. So distraction techniques are really easy to implement on a plane. And, that's thanks to smartphones, tablets, in-flight entertainment. So just consider, downloading a calming app like Calm or Insight Timer. They have guided meditations that are actually specifically designed for in-flight anxiety. You can bring some noise canceling headphones, curate a relaxing playlist of music, pick a lighthearted TV show or podcast, anything that's just going to kind of keep your mind occupied. And keeping your brain occupied with something else reduces its capacity to focus on that anxiety, making distraction just a good short-term solution during that flight. And then finally, really understanding turbulence and why it's normal. So for most people, turbulence is that major trigger for flight anxiety. So really understanding what it is and why it's normal can help reduce that fear. So turbulence is simply the movement of air currents that the plane moves through. And it's very similar to waves on a boat. Planes are designed to withstand turbulence and pilots are trained to handle it. Sitting by the wing of a plane is often considered the best seat for people with flight anxiety because it generally experiences less turbulence compared to other parts of the aircraft. Because the wings are located near the plane's center of gravity, so it actually makes the ride feel smoother during those flight fluctuations. So remind yourself that the sensation of turbulence is uncomfortable, but it's not dangerous, and it's a normal part of flying that pilots monitor and manage as part of their job. My brother actually has some anxiety around flying, and what he does is when it's turbulent on his flight, he just reminds himself that turbulence is like a car going over bumps in the road. And that's what helps him kind of calm his anxiety. So remember that flying is incredibly safe, and statistically, the chance of a plane crash is around 1 in 11 million. That's an insane statistic. And pilots and airline staff undergo really rigorous training, and every aspect of a flight really follows strict safety protocols. So managing a fear of flying is a journey. It's not going to be resolved overnight, but it really doesn't have to prevent you from enjoying travel. And just remember that, the benefits of travel, and if that's something you really value, the payoff is going to be so much greater than a couple minutes or a couple hours of that fear. And by using these grounding techniques and specific tools like coping ahead, you can really find ways to make the experience of flying more manageable. So with time and practice and the right preparation, each flight will become a little easier. And then the more flights you take, the more exposure you get, and the more you will become desensitized to that fear of flying over time. So give these strategies a try on your next flight, and the more you use them, the more confident you'll feel about staying calm. I'll see y'all next week.